Thanks so much for joining us for our next episode of The Arts Are the Answer. And we're going to start off today with Nick Stong. He's Education's Programs Manager for the PG Museum. And we're going to talk about experiential learning and all the great things that happen there. So much great things happen at school every day, but it's a different kind of learning for the most part. And the arts and the things that are related to learning through the arts are what really brings it all home for our youth. So Nick, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. Happy to be here.
So tell us more about the museum overall, and then what kinds of things, I know in your summer program, but maybe you have year-long things that happen or things that happen throughout the year where our young people can get that kind of experiential learning that they're so missing normally throughout the year.
Sure. So the Pacific Grove Museum of Natural History focuses on the flora and fauna and history of the Central Coast and our county. And we engage a lot of kids in a lot of different programs at the museum, as well as some places around the community, like the beach in our Limpets program and the Carmel River through our Watershed Explorers program. And in all of those programs, they're designed to sort of complement what they're learning in school and their science, but give them a chance to see the things up close and touch some of the things in the classroom or out at the river, at the beach.
So tell me how it's structured. Like, in a classroom there might be 30 kids. In your groups, how do you break it down so that you're not running around with too many kids?
Sure, with summer camps?
Summer camps and also things that you do throughout the year.
Yeah, so in my position, I lead our in-museum field trips. So those we limit to about 30 students in the classroom at a time. So it is about a classroom-sized group.
Do you have an assistant or anything?
No, not for those
just
lessons. Yeah, just me. We do have volunteers who help. So if there are 2 classes at the museum, one class will be in the museum proper, doing, exploring the exhibits, working on a scavenger hunt or some further investigation, and I'll have another class of 30 kids in the classroom investigating something like bird and adaptations, or rocks and minerals, or Ohlone Native American artifacts. And then we sort of switch the classes. So we do have assistants that help with some of those programs.
And in each case, my understanding is that you really incorporate experiential learning. Can you talk a little bit about what that means to you as an educator and how you think it impacts the youth overall?
Yeah, so studies show that learning by doing and experiencing things is more long-lasting and impactful for kids, and we find it just by observing the kids when they come into the museum. They may have read something in a textbook or been told something by their teacher and shown a picture, which is great, and you have to do that. Yeah. But having the objects for them to touch and handle, I think really you can see their eyes light up, and it really cements that experience, and it's something that they, more often than not will go home and tell their family about and their siblings and bring them back to show them what they've learned and touched and experienced, and that just all makes these things extra memorable and extra long lasting.
So you have some things here. Can you tell us what we have here and what the role is in your program?
Yeah, so we're gearing up for summer camp. We have 8 weeks of unique summer camps for ages starting at age 4, or sort of the kindergarten age range, up to age 9 or 5th grade. Okay. And these are we have a heavy art component with those summer camps. So they're themed from prehistoric, sort of dinosaur, prehistoric reptile and mammal themed camp. Yeah. We also have one this summer. We have one this summer called Make a Museum Camp. So we're going to sort of give the kids that week a sneak peek behind sort of the curator's office doors to see what goes into making an exhibit, what are some things that go into curating these objects, and then each kid will make sort of a museum exhibit diorama that week.
That's wonderful.
With pieces and art and collages and things like that. So here are just a couple examples of each day we'll make a craft. So we have little bear masks that we made. We have our lovely big grizzly bear in the museum, so we used that as a model. We have some really neat study subjects. All of the natural history objects we have are great subjects for kids to sketch and draw and touch. Many of them in our education collection are handleable, so the kids can touch some amethyst crystals or a megalodon shark tooth fossil, or the mosasaur back, lived when the dinosaurs lived, not quite a dinosaur, but they can see these up close and get a feel for some of these objects. Another experiential sort of thing we like to do, we also encourage or employ sort of an inquiry-based learning model. So we, instead of telling the kids the information, giving them the answers, we encourage them to sort of work through a problem and come up with those questions that lead to their answers on their own. And part of that is exploring some of the wildlife around the museum and letting them develop those questions on their own. So one thing we do is we have them make spider web frames. So one day in camp, we place these out in the garden, and you set them up in different places and note, are you putting it next to a structure? Are you putting it on its own, next to a bush? What else is around? And then they come the next day and they check to see if a spider has made a web in there.
That's amazing.
So little experiments and things like that, just to get them thinking, but it's also super fun for the kids to maybe find a spider or get to handle something like that.
And isn't that amazing that it's so simple, but the way you have it designed is perfect for that. And then that's one of the things I love about your museum and how you're working with kids is really helping them, even beyond what they're learning per se. They're learning to learn in such a different way, and that all of a sudden the whole world is there. They realize that everything is connected to something else, and what is it connected to? And then you get them curious, and now they want to know more and more and more. And isn't that where we want everybody to be? That's really, really beautiful. So can you tell me more about your own experience? How did you become an educator? How did you get lured to the museum? And what keeps you there?
Yeah, so my kind of foray into museum work started down in Southern California where I grew up. And I started working at the Aquarium of the Pacific in Long Beach, where I was in the education staff doing shows in front of exhibits, talking about fish and sea otters and penguins. And kind of while at the aquarium also taught summer camps and went out, we had a truck that we would drive out into LA with live sharks in the back and lobsters and live animals on this big semi-truck that we would drive way out into LA and take it to schools and open up these touch tanks, and kids would get to feel the fish and sharks, and it was awesome. So that was my start, and I was hooked. I didn't want to do anything else. So from there I was working at the California Academy of Sciences in San Francisco, doing similar things, and then this opportunity here in Pacific Grove, in such a great place, and moved here with my family, and haven't looked
How
back.
long have you been here?
Almost 2 years.
Great. Well, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
We're so lucky to have you here and to have your perspective and your energy and willingness to, not everybody can do what you're doing. You probably don't realize. But for some people, having that semi-controlled environment is too difficult. And so your willingness to be there with the kids, listen to them and guide them, but in a way that puts them at the center and ahead, really, in a lot of ways is really, really, really huge. That's what we find with all the arts, that there's a structure, there's a knowledge base, and then there's time for exploring, comparing, contrasting, and then there's time to do more. So you are providing also that more in certain circumstances. Like I see you have a journal there. Can you talk about, like, from an educator's point of view, how critical is it for them to be able to talk about what they've learned in terms of that? You mentioned a few minutes ago about the sustained nature of their learning. How important is a journal, and do they do sketches and everything too as part of that? So
I'm a big proponent of the nature journals. I think, especially in today's pace of kids that have the games on a tablet or a phone, and everything is so fast. And there might be a learning experience that takes place so quickly that it doesn't really linger and stay. So encouraging, we encourage every kid in camp to make one of these nature journals. And it slows it down, and it helps them recognize those learning opportunities as they happen. So they do something that we as teachers see as profound, and we're like, oh, this is great, this is what we wanted, and then they're on to the next thing, unless we give them time and encourage them to write it down and draw it, or write some notes that you can reflect on later. And how do they experience it? Do you know? Like, have they told you anything later, or as a parent said, oh, this has been the best thing ever because of something? So I'd say the best feedback we've gotten on these is just certain kids love the journals and will spend a lot of time on them, and they turn out amazing, better than our example journals can, and that reinforces. But then there are the kids who, we have our 5 or 10 minutes of journaling at the end of class, and there are some kids who kind of groan and they just want to play. But we encourage them to just try, and then it seems to be those kids who are proud of taking that journal home at the end of the week and showing their parents, or showing you things that they've created in there, because maybe it's not something they would have naturally been drawn to do, in their real out of camp life.
So for me as a parent, these kinds of experiences are so critical to our whole family life, and I'm wondering if people just drop in with their families, what else are they going to see at the museum that you would really guide the parents to do if they want to provide that enrichment? So not just wander around and just see things, but what can a parent do to, just on a kind of a casual basis, provide just that little bit more enrichment as they go through the museum? Yeah,
so we've created a handful of different scavenger hunts that on a clipboard with a pen or a pencil, and they're for various age groups. So there are some that are just pictures that the kids are searching for, images of things in the museum that they're searching for and crossing off.
Yeah. Do they get a prize?
They get a little prize.
That's the important thing.
Yeah, they love that. But for the sort of 7-year-olds and up, 7 to 12 range, we have a few options. We have a more in-depth scavenger hunt that has some short answer things, and then also an activity called Junior Naturalist Adventure, where they check out, free of cost or included with their museum mission, they check out a little backpack that's full of science tools. So it has like a tape measure, it has a quadrat for surveying an area, it has binoculars and a magnifying glass, and then a guide of activities. So they'll take the guide around to exhibits, use their science tools to maybe measure something's leg, write it down. Things like that to really help engage them a little further.
That's excellent. Yeah. And to tell me, what's next for the museum? What's on the horizon that we can all look forward to?
Yeah, so we have a couple things coming up. Summer camps we're getting really excited about. We also have an art class for kids coming up. I believe it's starting in April, where every week we'll have some wildflower art class.
Oh, phenomenal. Yes,
so I think
that's
one
we're
we're having the kids paint, and another is sketching. Another one is actually stitching kind of wildflower stuffies. And we'll have art instructors there each of those weeks, sort of guiding them through those different mediums.
And how is that structured? Is that going to be a drop-in basis, or is there a special day?
That one is, I believe it's Saturdays over a number of weeks. And
you just go, or do you go?
You sign up, I think, online, or you can sign up day of, too.
Okay, great.
Yeah. We also have kind of a club that we've started called the Junior Naturalist Club.
Oh, wow.
It grew out of that backpack activity I was just talking about, where again, kids aged kind of 7 to 12 range. It's a youth membership, so so they join for a year, and every month we have an excursion. So we go out to Point Lobos, or we go out and look for bats, or we go out and look for lizards. And that we just started up a few weeks ago. We're up to 30 members.
I'm not surprised a bit. That's wonderful.
We're really excited about the Junior Naturalist Club, and there's also information on our website about that one too.
And how do you staff up for something like that? Do you have a group of people that you reach out to and you train them? What do you do when you're ready to expand? How do you find people, the right people?
So we have a great core of volunteers at the museum. We're really lucky in that regard. So we do tap our volunteer base when we have programs like that where we need some extra hands. We also have a relationship with CSUMB where we have service learners who we tap for a lot of these things. But it's generally our core kind of staff of our education staff who end up leading most of the programs. We do hire on extra summer camp staff, but the bulk of it is carried by just the museum's education staff.
Wonderful. Well, it sounds like that's such a great fit for you, and we're so lucky to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
So really making the most of our region and the most of the tools that we have available to connect our kids with everything that's so important. So thanks for being here today. So before we go, I think we just have another minute or so. Can you, if people really are eager to find out more, they want to get connected with you, they want to get connected with, maybe they want to donate, maybe they want to be a volunteer, they just want to plug in.
Yeah.
What's the best first step?
So we have a social media presence. So we have the Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. So if you do those things, you can follow us there. We have a newsletter, an email newsletter that you can sign up for through our website.
It's a beautiful newsletter, as I remember.
Oh, good, thank you. That's a great way to get those sort of monthly updates of upcoming events and just keeping an eye on our website. Or come into the museum, talk to our
where
staff.
Not everybody will be aware, where exactly is it located?
Yeah, so we are on Central Avenue, right there in the heart of Pacific Grove, a couple blocks up from Lovers Point. We're at Central and Lighthouse. I'm sorry, Central and Forest.
And across from the gazebo, is that right?
Right across from the gazebo at Jewel Park.
And when you first go and you approach it, what do you see?
Yeah, so if you turn and approach our, these are good questions, you'll see a big Sandy the whale, a big life-size gray whale, our beloved Sandy out front. Yeah.
That's when you know you've arrived.
Yep, you know you're there.
So we look forward, and what is the thing that you are most looking forward to in the next little bit?
You know, the Junior Naturalist Club that it's so new, and the excursions we're doing every month are so much fun.
So will you get to go out yourself?
Yeah, so I go out and I lead the excursions.
Are you going to drive the bus also?
We don't drive the bus. We normally meet wherever we're going. But,
okay.
Yeah, I feel a bit like Miss Frizzle leading the Magic School Bus when we have these kids out at these excursions. It's pretty awesome. But summer camps are always so much fun, too, that the whole education staff is really getting excited about our summer camps this year.
And just to close, when you think really ahead, like 5 years, 10 years, where do you see that program going?
Yeah, for summer camp or Junior Naturalist?
The whole really just the whole youth education part.
So I love the direction that our museum's going with that. We have the Watershed Explorers program out at the Carmel River is really expanding. My coworker Matt McConnell is doing a great job with that. The Limpets program and Emily and Wes. I think our programs are growing and reaching more and more kids, and I think the more we can do that, the more we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So yeah.
Well, we look forward. We'll check in on that newsletter, the website, and we're going to drop in as well. So Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your leadership in making these wonderful things happen for the youth in our region and the families and everybody. I know ultimately it really works for everybody, but especially to have the youth really appreciate where they live and what's there, what used to be there, all kinds of things. It's all good. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.